Yes, this oil rig is 16 floors high and as wide as 2 football fields, and its weight is astonishingly even more than an aircraft carrier. This oil platform is called Appomattox, which is currently located in the Gulf of Mexico, 134 kilometers away from the coast of Louisiana, North America. But the beginning of its journey started a few years ago, thousands of miles away in South Korea, where thousands of workers and engineers were busy constructing this oil platform. After 7 years of hard work, when Appomattox was finally ready, the engineers faced a challenge that they were encountering for the first time in their careers. The issue was to transport this massive structure from South Korea to the Gulf of Mexico, and for this, the world's largest marine transport vessel was brought in. Lifting Appomattox onto this vessel was a task that was expected to take at least 7 days. But suddenly, they received news that a storm had formed in the Pacific Ocean, and this storm had taken the shape of a super typhoon. A typhoon of this level occurs only once in 20 years. Moving at a speed of 315 kilometers per hour, this typhoon could strike the coast of South Korea at any time within the next 7 days. And we all know that when a super typhoon strikes, it never leaves without causing damage. For the workers, engineers, and transport experts, the challenge now was to complete 7 days of work in just 3 days. That means if within 3 days Appomattox was not lifted from the shipyard and loaded onto the marine vessel, then years of hard work could go to waste in a moment. This was such a problem that shook the entire management from bottom to top. Once again, dear viewers, this oil platform was the biggest project of the oil company. That's why there was no room for even a small mistake. To avoid the super typhoon and to dispatch Appomattox ahead of schedule, it was very important to finish the remaining work quickly. For this, an extra army of workers was called. The workers worked day and night and began preparing Appomattox for transport as soon as possible. On the other hand, management, in collaboration with the Meteorological Administration, was keeping a close eye on the movement of the super typhoon. They hoped that maybe the typhoon would change direction, but their hopes were crushed when they learned that the typhoon was heading straight from the Pacific Ocean towards South Korea. The army of workers gave it their all and completed all the work on Appomattox in just 3 days. Now it was time to lift this massive structure and place it on the floating dock. The total weight of this structure was astonishingly 143,100 tons. Even the construction of the Burj Khalifa did not use as much steel as was used in this oil platform. With the help of large hydraulic jacks, it was pushed inch by inch and placed on the floating dry dock. Then, with the help of tugboats, the floating dock was pulled away from the shipyard to the place where Appomattox was to be loaded onto the marine vessel. This is the world's largest marine transport vessel, which can easily carry up to 980,000 tons. And it was this vessel that had to carry Appomattox to the other corner of the world, the Gulf of Mexico. The next morning, Appomattox was offloaded from the floating dock. For the first time, the oil platform started floating on water. With the help of tugboats, the platform was pulled toward the designated port where the marine vessel was already waiting. On the other hand, the super typhoon was rapidly moving toward South Korea, and management felt like a sword was hanging over their heads. Now, the super typhoon was only 48 hours away. As it came closer, signs of its arrival began appearing in the ocean. Winds and waves increased, a sign of danger for Appomattox. The moment was very delicate. Loading the oil platform onto the vessel is a very complicated task. First, the vessel fills its internal water tanks, which causes it to sink slightly into the water. Then, tugboats pull the oil platform and place it above the vessel. Finally, the vessel pumps the water out again and rises, lifting the platform with it. But this task is not as easy as you saw in this animation. For this work, the sea must be calm, because if it is done in waves, then Appomattox won't align properly on the vessel, and that could be dangerous for both the vessel and Appomattox. Due to the super typhoon, there were very strong waves in the sea. Because of the high winds and waves, this task was impossible. Meanwhile, time was passing quickly, and the stress level of the entire team was rising. Fortunately, the meteorological department informed the team that the next morning there would be only a 2-hour window when the sea might be calm. If the task wasn't completed within those 2 hours, then there would be no other chance. The super typhoon was now just 36 hours away. The next morning, as predicted, the sea was completely calm. At first opportunity, the oil platform was pulled over the vessel, and the vessel lifted it out of the water and placed it on itself. Hours before the super typhoon arrived, Appomattox was finally able to say goodbye to South Korea. Shell successfully saved its oil platform from the super typhoon and completed the first challenge. But that did not mean there would be no more challenges ahead. After several months of journey in South Texas, the oil platform was once again offloaded because there were parts being manufactured there that needed to be installed. Modules were fitted onto the embedded platform, and once again, it was sent 130 kilometers away to its destination, where it was to stay for the next 40 years. After 7 years of hard work, the moment had finally come to connect Appomattox to the oil 30,000 feet below. Where Appomattox was floating on water, the sea bottom was 7,400 feet deep. That's so deep that 3 Burj Khalifas could fit there. But the oil it needed to connect to was surprisingly another 1,600 feet below that depth. In such deep waters, the water pressure is extremely high, making it impossible for a human to go down and complete a mission. So, to connect Appomattox to the oil well deep underwater, a remotely operated underwater vehicle, ROV, was used. Installation personnel from a separate platform were installing underwater pipelines. They lowered the ROV into the ocean using a crane. This is a very complicated task where the pipeline must be landed exactly on the oil well opening. Performing this with such accuracy at 7,400 feet deep is in the hands of the operator sitting above, who performs this mission like a video game. Luckily, the task was completed successfully on the first attempt. Now, it was time to transfer the pipe from the installation platform to Appomattox. This process is called riser transfer, which involves 4 different steps working together. First, a chain is pulled out from Appomattox. The ROV takes the chain to the other tip. From there, the chain is pulled by another platform. And finally, Appomattox pulls the pipe toward itself using this chain. After this, the drilling work began. The pipe had to be drilled to the oil, 22,600 feet below the seabed. After months of training, the pipe finally reached the oil. Now, it was time to pump it. The entire team gathered to witness this moment, and the oil pump was turned on with the press of a button. When oil was pumped for the first time from 30,000 feet below, the joy on everyone's face was worth seeing. The 7 years of hard work by workers, engineers, and management had finally paid off. The oil flow and its quality were absolutely perfect. Today, Appomattox produces 175,000 barrels of oil daily, enough fuel for 4 million cars in a single day. Shell believes that Appomattox will continue producing oil for the next 40 years until 2060. We hope you will also like and share this video generously. Thank you so much for your loving comments. See you in the next amazing video.